On 14 February 1990, the Voyager 1 spacecraft was 6.5 billion kilometres from home. At the request of astronomer Carl Sagan, NASA turned Voyager 1 around to take a picture of our home, planet Earth. The resulting photograph, which captured Earth in a ray of sunlight, showed our home as one tiny pale dot in a vast nothingness. The pale blue dot was a phrase coined by Carl Sagan, and the photo showed how alone we are in the universe and put our very existence into perspective, a tiny speck of dust in the universe. In this series of podcasts, your host Gregory Pfeiffer looks at facets of life on this pale blue dot we call home. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining me again for this episode of Life in the Pale Blue Dot. On a previous episode, I discussed the concept of asking the question, who am I? And challenged you to ask that question of yourself, to be really honest and ask that difficult question of, who am I? Today I want to take that a little bit further and to ask what would be the follow-on question from that, and that is to ask, where am I? In the great scheme of things, our planet Earth, our little pale blue dot, we're the third planet out from a fairly average sun. We're in the outer edge of a fairly common, nothing special spiral galaxy in what could always be the middle of what we think is an infinite and yet ever-expanding universe. That is our place. That is our position. Not exactly sure where our planet is going, but we roughly know where we're located. So if you were to ask, where am I located in life? Where am I now? Which path am I on? Where am I going on my journey? I don't think that this is a question that has been asked. And if you did ask someone, I'm just wondering how many people could actually give you a really good answer to that question. Why it's important to know where you are is to figure out if you're actually on the right path or you're heading in the right trajectory. And if people did ask themselves this question a bit more, they may realize at times that heading down a path or a road that is not the right one, it's a dead-end road, or it's a path that's not taking them to where they want to go. But they've just never stopped to think and look at where they are. So I've talked this about before, that when you're deciding on your journey or your path in life, you need two parts. You need your starting point and you need your destination. Those are the two things that you require to plan getting from starting point to destination and plan your route. If you don't have a starting point or a finishing point in mind, then it is really difficult to plan and move your life in the direction that you want or a direction that is good for you. So one thing I would recommend that you do is something that I call a life audit. And this is literally a big self-examination of aspects of you and aspects of your life. And you would write this down, get out bits of paper, and we're going to think about some categories to put in and have a look at and explore where you are in your life. Part of this exercise is also then to look backwards, to see where you were a period of time ago, be it 12 months, be it 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's really important to see where you have been and be able to compare that to where you are now. That gives you your trajectory and gives you an idea if you are heading in the right trajectory to get to your final destination, or if you've basically gone off at a tangent. And that gives you two choices. You can either rewind and try and regress. Think, hang on, where I am at the moment is not a good point. I was at a much better point X amount of time ago. And you can decide, I think, I'm going to try and go back to that point and then redirect from that point, or rebuild upon that foundation of being in a better place or a better person. The second option is then to realize that you are heading on the wrong trajectory and to make a major shift in that trajectory to head you back to where you want to go and take you to the place that you want to arrive at. Really important decisions, but again, they can only be made by knowing where you are now and having that information. So how would you do a life audit? Well, you could start by, first of all, doing those personal parts of trying to write down and answer, who am I? Think about, who am I in terms of what do I stand for, what do I believe in, how do I act, how do I respond, my thoughts, my feelings, what type of person am I, how would I describe myself to somebody else, how do I feel about myself? Asking those tough questions that really force you to examine and look inwards and think, who am I? And give an honest answer. Honesty is so important in this process. Conscious awareness of your situation. If you don't have that, you cannot progress. You cannot go where you want to go. Self-development is built upon self-awareness and a consciousness of what you are doing, where you are, and who you are. So I want you to have this inward examination and first of all answer, who am I? Then you can come down to asking the question, where am I? Now this you can probably put in a few areas that I've thought of. You may want to score or to examine, and you're free to come up with your own ideas of how you're going to set some markers of where you are. Why not put on possibly a social or emotional stage? So emotionally, where am I? Maybe psychologically, socially, like my friends, my family, my support network, my engagement with the community. Where am I in those areas? Your mental health situation, if there's any, may come into that part of it. Some people may also like to include spiritual in that area. Some people may choose that spiritual becomes its own area. For some people, spiritual or religion is a significant part of their journey and will deserve its own category for examination. Other people will probably find that their spiritual nature is still entwined with their social and emotional states, so they'd probably put that one all together and link them to see where you are. Secondly, we have physical. Now, physical can cover things like purely physical traits that you have, your state of health, maybe parts about really limitations if you have any impairments, disabilities, have you had major illness, has there been a significant change, has there been, certainly if there's been some major effect, whether you've had something where you've lost a limb, where you've acquired a brain injury, you're quadriplegic, significant illness, cancer, all these things that may have happened would certainly impact upon your physical state and your general well-being. People, if you've got lung conditions, heart conditions, or various other medical conditions, they will certainly have an impact, and to some extent looking at which ones can you impact upon, and also look back as to how did I get here. So physical what do I engage in, my activity levels, my ability to do things, what can't I do, what am I limited to doing, what would I like to do. So really, again, honest appraisal of where you are. Financial situation is obviously a really important one, and this may include, obviously your bank balance. It may include, am I employed? What is my situation? Do I have financial stress? Am I comfortable? How am I going on the financial state? And we realise this can have a really big impact upon people. And is often one of the aspects people really want to change in their life is their financial status. And for a lot of people, their progression is viewed in terms of financial gains, getting to a better place financially, making more money, getting better jobs. So a certain financial and employment situation is quite important. People later in life may find there's a change if they're heading towards retirement, or people who may be taking a change, say going back to study, or have recently gone back to study where there has been a major change in their financial status. Becoming unemployed, changing jobs is again a major impact financially on where you are. So our financial situation can be very fluid and it can change quite dramatically. So really putting down where you are financially and almost a balance sheet. What have I got? What haven't I got? Debts, income, what do I own? And that also comes down to a sense of wants and needs. What income do I need to maintain my situation as opposed to what income would I like to have? Your environmental situation obviously is quite important. Factors like, where do I live? Do I have a house? What's my accommodation? What type of environment do I live in? So people who may live in a big city obviously have different opportunities available to people who may be in more remote areas, and outer suburban versus inner city. If you're in areas with a particularly harsh climate or a changeable climate, these things can impact upon what you can do and certainly have a major impact upon your life. If you're living in a desert area, or if you're in an area that, say in the northern hemisphere, more than where we are, that is impacted by cold weather and snow, or as I said, these major climatic changes that do have an impact upon your everyday life, or can do, this is certainly something to consider. If you're in a remote area, is that limiting opportunities, or conversely, is that absolutely wonderful? The peace and quiet, the solitude is what you want. So are you in an environment that you feel is working for you, that you're comfortable with, that is good for your soul? Have you run away from somewhere, or you're running to somewhere? Perhaps. Maybe it's only a transient location. Is it a fixed location? Do you have security in where you are? So again, a lot of points will come under environment. So we can ask all these questions and write it down, and we'll have an idea of where you are. As I said, sometimes it's good then to go back and pick a time period and go, where was I when I felt really good? Maybe there wasn't a time, and it can be good to look back and realise, actually 12 months or 2 years ago, this is where I was, and gee, that was a bad place, and hey, this is a good place. There's also a chance you're going to have a really uncomfortable realisation that you are not where you want to be, or you're not on the right trajectory. You can come to this realisation that you have gone down a dead-end road, or a particular rabbit hole that is taking you somewhere you don't want to go. And this can be confronting for people. They may have to ask, my gosh, is this really me, or am I really in this situation? And you'd have to ask the question, how did I get here? And to answer that question, how did I get here? Again, go back to your previous points and see where you were, and even look at some time points before and think, if you're in a comfortable bad place now, rewind back to when you think you were in a good place. Have a look at the steps and actions and places that have led you to where you are now. This is then a good time to examine your choices and try and figure out how you ended up here. And why did it take me so long to realize I am on this wrong path, or a dead-end path, or I'm really headed in the wrong direction, or gone down a dark path? It is something curious that people can head down these paths and often wonder, how did they get here? Why did they not stop? And did no one tell them or warn them or give them guidance to make them realize that that was where they were going? And from a psychological point of view, there is various reasons given for why people may continue a bad form of behaviour, but we'll leave that up to the purely field of psychology. That's not what we're here about today, so I'm not a psychologist. But certainly part of it is having a realization that you are heading in the wrong path at some point, and being able to put the brakes on continuing down that wrong path. Now, some parts of where you are, you may not have control over. Some parts, the universe or life or circumstances have taken you to a place, and you may find, well, I cannot change this. My contract for work is this, or I've had to go for this reason. So in many cases, there is a particular strong or compelling reason that you are where you are right now in your life. And if that's the situation, that is something you need to manage and hold on until you can make a change. However, there are certainly parts you probably can look at and go, I can change that, I can improve that, and I can work upon it. If you do this audit and you realize, I'm just not really happy, doing the audit can often make you look at the things that, what is this unhappiness? Why am I not feeling fulfilled? Why am I not doing something? And by doing the audit and looking at where you are, you may find some of those answers are coming about. So having done that and having been honest with yourself, and this may also entail you engaging in a degree of self-criticism. Now, it's a common thing these days to hear that people are really trying to avoid self-criticism and being hard on themselves. And this is certainly the function of our ego, is to reject criticism, to reject hardness, pain and discomfort. But criticism and self-criticism that is justified and honest is something that needs to be embraced, not feared. Think of criticism as feedback, and feedback is how you get the idea of where you are and how things are going. The best source of feedback is often yourself. Being honest with yourself, but also having the consciousness and awareness to be able to reflect on where you are, having that awareness and that reality. Some people won't have that. Not everyone can see where they are and don't have this awareness of themselves, and it is a skill that they need to develop. I think that these people are the ones who don't ask themselves the questions. In fact, they probably try and avoid questions because they may be afraid of the answers. And again, this is just a way of the ego to protect us. But to build that resilience, to toughen up, to become a better person, then you have to ask questions of yourself and give honest answers. Give insightful answers. Be prepared to deep dive into these questions and into yourself. getting an idea of where you are is just one of the most important things you can do in a journey of development and self-progression. And it's a process that may need to be repeated, and I think it should be repeated. This is how you mark your progress and confirm that you are going in the right direction. There's often talk about don't look back, just keep looking forward. But looking back to see where you were gives you the comparator to where you are now. And it's only through that way do you know what progress you have made, or if in fact you've gone backwards. You need to have some way of marking your progress, of charting your progress, and continually doing so, having some type of KPIs, some goals, some steps that keeps you assured that you are on the right path to getting to where you want to be. If this audit shows you're not on the right path, having then the awareness to look at it and think, well, this is the bits I need to do to get back on the right path. Like most things, you can't, if you don't measure it, if you don't record it, if you don't track it, it is really hard to know what's going on. Data is a wonderful thing. We track our weight, we may track our figure, we may track income. There's a lot of things we track to see our progress or to get data to make choices. But keeping actual data and tracking our own self-progression, our own journey, is probably not something that most people will do. Yet, is it anything that's probably more important than ourselves? We are the most important thing to us. There is no one more important to you than you. So why wouldn't you put time into tracking your journey and keeping metrics on yourself to know where you are, to look at that progression, to get some encouragement, to set some KPIs for achievement, to have those goals? Keep asking the question, where am I along that path? So if you've done the audit, you may find there's some parts that are not contributing to you, are not being a positive aspect of your life, that may be a negative on your life or a drain. There may be some faults or some circumstances that are not good for you. So what can you do about it? You've now probably got the first step is to identify and recognize these faults, these errors, these behaviors, these thought patterns, these things that are impacting negatively on you. Recognizing, admitting them, and identifying them. Again, bringing them up to your conscious awareness is the first step. It's then a case of, what am I going to do? Can I maintain them? Are they there for a reason? Or is this something I can change? In my behavior, in my circumstance, in my education, what do I need to change? So identifying areas for change or that need progression. You would then ask yourself, do I know how to change these areas? Or have I got the knowledge and awareness to be able to change the attributes of myself or these circumstances? Quite often you won't. And this is part of self-development, is being learned how to change your behaviors, how to change bad habits, how to change thinking, feelings, thoughts that impact negatively upon your life. There are so many avenues out there where you can go and get educated on that way. There are so many books, positive books out there. There is information on YouTube, on the internet. There is a heap of information out there. And it just takes the choice to actually spend some of your time looking at matters of self-development rather than watching the latest series on Netflix or TV. Watch something that's going to contribute positively to you and your education and learning. You may need to ask other people. Some people may choose to look at mentors, and we've discussed this before. wisely choose a mentor, but getting someone or the information to help you make that change. But that can only come back to recognizing there is a problem that needs to be changed. Getting people on board to help you and to make them aware of that change and to encourage you to go to where you want to go. There can be the uncomfortable part, that realizing that your social circle is heading in a totally different direction to you. And I spoke about this before. It's one thing where you may have great friends, and it's going to be a test on your friendship as to whether you can go along the path you want to go to, and whether these friends will still stay friends and come with you, or whether their path is going to be quite different and you're going to diverge. And that can be hard, to make that change, to head on a different path, that fear of losing friends and losing support. And that may stop some people from wanting to make the change. There is a safety and a security in staying with their friends, their peer pressure, going with the flow, doing what everyone else is doing. It's safe, it's secure, it's not challenging, it's comfortable. But to get to where you want to go to improve, unfortunately, you have to go through some uncomfortable situations. So acknowledging there will be discomfort, preparing for discomfort, and little bits at a time. Gradually just pushing the envelope a little bit is a great way to get there. Moving a little bit at a time, so it's not necessarily going in the deep end and just overwhelming yourself with change and discomfort, which can end up anxiety or just deciding, nope, this is all too hard, and unfortunately you backtrack to a place that, whilst it feels comfortable and safe, is really not in your best interests. There's a great part that people confuse change and progress, and this is an important part of your self-audit that you may realize, and you probably have, my situation has definitely changed, but has it progressed? These are not the same things. And too often people will confuse change with progress. That I've changed this, I've done all this, I've moved house, I've changed this, but was it for the better? Am I in a better situation? Am I a better person for having made this change? Has it moved me towards where I want to be? And there's often a case of change just for the sake of change. Now, change without direction is not progression. Change in the direction you need to go is progression. So when looking to make a change, you're trying to make changes that will impact positively upon you and also head in the direction that you need to go. Part of your audit may also then include looking ahead, to looking at your destination. Do you have a vision? Do you have a dream? Do you have the goals? And these may change from time to time, and these are things that you need to visit, update, and often alter. So revising these on a regular time frame is also an important part of your self-audit. Your goals, if you may have achieved some, so you need new goals. Life has moved on, things have changed, so your need for goals may change. You may have, become, there's family, there are life events, there are children can be involved, there are other things that may change your view on life and may change what's suddenly important to you. And based on that, your goals may change. So what was important and a goal for you a period of time ago may decide, well, that's not really important for me now. Because of where I am, these are the things that are now important for me. So a regular self-audit that looks at where I've come from, where I am, also look forward and have a reappraisal, a reviewing of what my goals and what my destination is. So we then have the 3 points that we need. Where I was, my start, my where I am, and my where I need to go. We now have the points you need to make a plan for your life going forward. You must also set a review date. I will revisit this 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. What will be my regular review date be? It may also be, hang on, if there's a significant change in life or circumstances, it is time to sit down and do one of these reviews again. Can't always determine where we are. There's certainly the universe throws things at us. Yes, we make certain choices. We're not always in control of outcomes. So our path is not always linear. It'll change, it'll deviate, it'll head off in little tangents. We may change our destination a number of times. So this process of rechecking where we are, recalibrating who we are and where we're going, is a way to make sure that we are still getting to where we need to go as situations evolve, as situations change. Life is fluid. It is not a simple matter of, I'm here today, I will do this, I will get there. That is the part of the wonderful things of life on this planet, is there are so many things that are happening, and there are so many challenges that are being thrown out to us to go and meet, and the variability in life and circumstances. It is something you can embrace or you can fear. But most importantly, it is something you have to manage. So to conclude, I'd like to ask everyone to get involved in this idea of doing their life audit, to make it a regular event, to be thorough, to be comprehensive in it, to ask the hard questions, to be honest, to not be afraid of the feedback, and use that as a guide to set your goals, to set your journey, to make sure you're on the right track, to decide whether you need to regress or rewind, and then move forward from that position of regression, or just whether it's a continue on the path you're on now, or just a major or perhaps minor change in trajectory to get you to where you want to be. It may be reaffirming to know that yes, I am on the right path. I have hit my goals. I'm in a good place. I look to be going where I need to go. So just keep doing what I'm doing. The process is working. Nothing wrong with that. You know, if you've made that situation, you're smashing those goals, things are onward and upwards, congratulations. But it is great to reaffirm that sometimes. So doing a self-audit, throwing aside your ego, and really having some time of reflection, consciousness and awareness is just a foundation of any life journey and progression. I just can't employ any more to do it. So if anyone does take on this exercise, I'd love to hear some feedback from you via a comment or contact to say that you've done it. I always like to hear any thoughts or ideas. If you can leave them there, it'll be absolutely wonderful to do so. If you've enjoyed the podcast and have felt it has enriched you or stimulated some thinking, or you know of someone who might benefit for it, please spread the word on your socials or share the links to other people, help the podcast grow and help reach more people and help improve them. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of one another. Bye for now.